Alright, so we're going to set up a slightly different example using the same definition that we've had for that we've already worked on. This time what we're going to do is we're going to panelize a different object. So it's just a very simple object that was made. Just a couple triangles that have a very thin base, and the entire thing is joined together, so it's essentially just one object. Right. That's something you can very quickly recreate. So essentially what I want to do is reconnect everything. So I just have a new surface, so I reconnect that one surface. I'm going to unpreview, and I'm going to set this one geometry. And go to wireframe mode. And the only thing at this point that I might adjust is the overall offset of the surface. So now this is getting panelized with this one object. So now I'm going to make it just a little bit more interesting. Instead of just panelizing it as is, what I want to do is I want to use, I'm going to start off by using point attractors. So I go back to my paneling tools, and I'm going to throw in a point attraction. And I'm just going to see what it's essentially what it's asking for. I need a grid of points, something that's going to attract it, and the amount of attraction it's going to have. So in order to preview this, I'm going to uncheck or hide the last component. And I'm going to plug in these new set of points. I'm going to make a rhino point, and I'm going to associate it in Grasshopper by making a point component. Set one point, select it, and put that into the point that I want to associate with. And now, if this is turned on, I have everything else unpreviewed. I have my surface, offset, my original grid points, and my paneling. I have those all unpreviewed. So just to show you what's happening, if I select that that point and I begin to move it around, I can see how it's having an attraction with the rest of the points. And I can control the amount of attraction that it has, right? It's just a number slider. So I can put in a number slider, adjust that value, and I can plug that in. So now, without having to move the point around, I can adjust how much, essentially like how much strength that one point has. All right, so let's test this out. I'm going to take that that grid of points. I'm going to substitute it for this one. So this one is traveling down to the second grid. It's going in here to grid 2. So I'm going to plug that into grid 2. And I also want to have one for grid 1. So I'm going to take this original one and copy paste. Everything else is going to stay the same because I still want the original point, and I still just want one slider to control both. So essentially the only thing I want to replace is this second grid of points is now going to plug in. And I'm just going to substitute the original grid of points, which is traveling along into grid 1. I'm going to replace it with this one. So now I have both new sets of grid points that's being affected. Oh, I need to adjust the magnitude here. Both sets of new grid points are now being affected. Right. So if I turn this back on and I adjust my magnitude, I can start to see how it's adjusting the way this is getting panelized. And I could also adjust the point and move that around. I can start to see how that's being adjusted. If I wanted to, I can even add a second point. I can go right click, set multiple points. So I want to select both of them. Hit enter. And now I have two sets of points that are starting to affect the way this is getting panelized. If I wanted to, I can add 3 or 4, and I can keep going. Alright, so now I can come up with a design where I'm using point attractors. So I could also have set this up with curve attractors. So let's do that now. So instead of point attractors, I'm going to go to paneling tools, grid attractors, curve attraction. So it's asking for pretty much the exact same thing, grid of points. This time it's asking for a curve instead of a single point, and the magnitude. So essentially my points, I'm going to just delete those. And I already have my magnitude. I don't need my points anymore. I can even get rid of them over here in Rhino. I can make a new curve. I need to set that curve. So I come over here and put in a curve component. Right click, set one curve. I plug in my curve. And then my grid, and plug that in. So now I can see how much I can adjust the magnitude just based off that one curve. And this one I think was plugged into number 2. So then essentially if I just take this original one, copy it and paste it, again I still wanted the original curve and the original magnitude. The only difference is I'm going to plug in these set of points, grid points, and the output is going to go into grid 1. So now everything comes back, and now I can adjust this, and it's all being adjusted based on the curve. And if I wanted to, I can adjust the original curve. I could either move the entire curve, and it should adjust, or I can turn on the control points for the curve, and I can just adjust the original curve and have the entire thing update. So again, a little bit more freedom into designing with paneling tools.